Hey guys, Twice here with another Why I Play This Deck segment. So you guys seem to really enjoy these videos. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on these, especially from the Galaxy Blocklooker one, which frankly I'm very happy about because that was a really fun video to make, and so was the Beast Deity one. So hope you guys are enjoying this segment, and this one I think is going to be really fun because the past two have been on Nova Grappler, which is a rather straightforward clan. It's heavily offensive, your main engine of cost is counterblast, and for the most part, it's pretty much just about restanding. Sure, with Beast Deity, it's more rearguard focused, and with Blau, it's more vanguard focused. But I think that Pale Moon being a totally different clan and having a much different focus, while it can have similar aspects of Nova Grappler in multiple attacks and combos, things like that, does have a much different playstyle. So I've always figured that the reason that things like Narukami, Kagero, Link Joker were a little bit more common, especially when it comes to newer players, is because they are a little bit easier to play. It's not hard to pilot a Kagero deck. It really just isn't. There's not a whole lot of, comboing, forethought that goes on, and that's okay. It's not saying that those clans are bad. It's just saying that when it comes to things like Pale Moon, Angel Feather, Bermuda Triangle, Granblue, things that focus on a specific zone, that require a specific kind of setup, and that you think ahead in what kind of strategy you're going to have, I think it says a little bit more about the skill that the game does in fact have that you're able to play these clans well. But that's not to say that the other ones aren't, don't require their own level of skill. But today I want to go over Silverthorns because it's a really fun archetype, and of course I'm going to go over it in the four main categories. First in its aesthetics, second in its lore, third in its playstyle, and of course fourth with my own personal experience. Alright, so I'm going to go first with the aesthetics. And I have to say that when I first got into Vanguard, one of my favorite things about the game was the motifs that every clan had. Of course, you had the Dark Irregulars with the very dark kind of underworld motif, the Nova Grapplers with their super awesome, like Gundam, robot things, and then you had Pale Moon, which I really thought was a very interesting clan because it's the circus, it's the mad circus. You have clowns that are freaking these ugly goblin things, and you have these beautiful trapezists, like purple trapezists, and then you had Lukier, who really caught my eye, one, because she's hot, let's not deny that, and two, because she was a really good card for Pale Moon. There's a reason that Lukier herself is about $50, and is going to stay like that because on the side of her she has two cross rides, right, both of which are pretty useful, and her own ability is also really good. So I thought that, wow, there's a really good aesthetic to this, the tamer kind of circus thing, and I was really interested in the clan. So I think Silverthorns do have a really great aesthetic. They're kind of a throwback in many ways to, kind of the old Pale Moon colors. I'll show you Upright Lion here, who you notice he has the purple in him, and purple is a very signature color of Pale Moon. They make very good use of it because it is a very circus style color. And then you have cards like Zelma here, who is one of my favorite cards in the deck. The whole wheel, the cat kid kind of thing, the whole beast kid design that Pale Moon is also very famous for. And then the starter, Emil, who, if you'll notice, has that, that performer's outfit on, and then she has the circus background, excuse me, with the bunny and, all kinds of things that are just trademarks of Pale Moon. So all the Lukiers themselves aren't necessarily, what Pale Moon looks like. The Silverthorn archetype, which is what we're reviewing today, does in fact have a good grasp on, Pale Moon. And I like the aesthetic. And onto the lore, there's not a whole lot of lore for Silverthorns, it's really just for Lukier. And so here's what happened. So Lukier is a dragon tamer, she's known as the Millennium Elf because she's lived for 1,000 years. She's beautiful, very deceptive, things like that. But the thing that makes her really powerful is, as you'll notice in her picture, she has a red eye. You can see that red streak across her face. And that is her charm ability, right? It's her ability to, for people that are weaker willed than she is, turn them basically into her servants. And that's where the Silverthorns come from. Those are Lukier's servants, whom she gives a piece of Silverthorn if they're beast tamers, as kind of like a trademark of that. So that's where the whole Silverthorn archetype comes from. And when she was attacked by Link Joker, when she was apparently at a coastal city, you can read the lore, I'll post a link to it, she was reversed. And this controlling aspect of her became more prominent, and that's Lukier Reverse over there on the left, who is known as the Mad Queen, the red fiery, really like intimidating hair. She's really insane, like, and it's that really controlling kind of manipulative aspect about Lukier that became more pronounced with the Void. And then after Ezel, of course, freed her, Salvation Lion, Grand Ezel's Scissors, she still like had a piece of the Void in her. Like that's how deep it got, I guess. And you know, she lost her black hair, which was like one of her trademarks. And now if you look at Venus Lukier, you'll find that her hair is silver or white, either one, and it's still a little bit red. So she's still got some of it in her, but for the most part, Lukier is back to normal, but a little bit different. She no longer views the Silver Thorn like assistants as her slaves or servants. She views them more as friends, and that's kind of her new outlook on life. And it's kind of, you know, reflected in the abilities. Lukier Reverse with the lock one, call a new one, gets +5, a little bit more aggro control kind of play style, and then Venus Lukier calling many units to the field all at once with a relatively easy cost. So it kind of shows the lore reflects the abilities, and it's pretty good. And this will bring me now into the playstyle. So I think that Silverthorns have one of the best playstyles, really of most archetypes, because I think it's one of the most fun playstyles there is. Really, there's a lot of combo potential with this. I mean, again, cards like Zelma have completely revolutionized Silverthorns. Like, this card was key to this deck. And then, of course, you have Upright Lion, who can get, excuse me, amazing power. Like, just build up incredible columns because he gets +3 whenever Silverthorn's called out. And then you have awesome pressure cards like Anna, where if her boosted attack hits, Counterblast 1, call something new from the soul, which, of course, if you call Zelma, then you can, you know, reset another unit that stood. And, you know, this can make for some really good pressure because it threatens your opponent with another attack. And so I think that Silverthorns have an amazing balance of how to get cards in the soul with things like Emil here. You know, just put her, a grade 1, 2, and 3 Silverthorn into the soul. Cards like Irina, who can do the same, you know, to kind of build the soul early, then have cards like Zelma and Anna, who can consistently call things out of the soul, and then, of course, things like Lukier and Upright Lion, who can get power from doing so. It would be amazing if Lukier's ability also activated on Rearguard, but that would make her too broken, so I kind of understand that. Anyway, it's a really good playstyle, a lot of good pressure. It tricks your opponent, and I think that's where the motif of Pale Moon comes in, the whole circus thing, because it really does make your opponent think about what your next move is. How are you going to manipulate your soul and your field? And it can make for some really interesting turns. I run pure Silverthorn in this deck, no Evas, you know, anything, except for a couple of my triggers, just because they have abilities that I prefer and I like the lineup. But otherwise, it's a pretty consistent build. And that's where I would transition to my experience. I love this deck. I love Silverthorn. I love Lukier as a character, as the focal point of Silverthorn, because she's such an interesting and well-designed character, both, you know, aesthetically and in her nature. Her abilities are all really good in each one of her forms, and while I prefer Venus Lukier, the deck itself, I definitely loved using Reverse when she was the main card for Silverthorn. I've had really fun turns of just stand, you know, get a bunch of things restood, get some really good pressure, as long as you have open Counterblast, which it's not hard to do because I do run Sky High Walker and Venus Lukier only costs 2 Counterblasts, then, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, then you can really make for some powerful turns, and your opponent can spend a lot of cards from their hand in just one turn. All it takes is one card to go off in this deck, and you get a bunch of other things. So I love the combo potential. I love the cross rides. The fact that there are 2 cross ride units in this deck, and that it's really easy to get Lukier into the soul, means that the defense in this deck is really nice. And it's not hard to maintain a pretty decently sized hand with this deck. Even going against, I put this deck up against my Blouse, and it managed pretty well, because that 13k base is just so useful against restanding decks, or restanding rearguards rather. So in the end, I love this deck. I think it's really fun to play. You know, there's always some kind of interesting combo you can pull off. Great aesthetics. The lore is really interesting for Lukier, and you know, I respect the playstyle because it requires more setup. You have to really think about, what am I putting in the soul, why, how is it going to be useful for later, and how am I going to set up the field to get the most benefit out of those units? You know, how am I going to get the most combo potential out of this field? So, hope you guys enjoyed this. I love Silverthorn. It's a great archetype. It's really fun to play, and, you know, this is why I play it, because it's really cool, and it's, I mean, Lukier is absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day and keep card fighting. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.